Hi everyone, Scotty from Dragon Shadow Industries here with video blog post number 2. If you're here for the first one, then you know that was just kind of a quick introduction to these video posts and a way for me to get my feet wet with video editing. So consider this the first real entry. I thought a good topic to talk about would be an introduction to NUON technology. I hope these video posts make it out to people outside of the NUON community who may not have ever heard of NUON. So consider this a NUON primer of sorts. I urge you to visit nuondome.com. It has all the details that I couldn't fit in this blog post. NUON was a technology intended to replace the hardwired MPEG-2 decoder chips within DVD players and set-top boxes of the time. It consisted of a quad-core VLIW processor codenamed Aries. The intention being that since it's a more general-purpose processor, in addition to playing movies, it could also do other things such as video games. VM Labs pitched this as a Trojan horse approach, meaning that consumers would go out and buy the player based purely on its DVD features, and then later realize that it could also play games. So then they would go out and buy games and controllers, providing an additional revenue stream for VM Labs and its partners. FYI, I was employed at VM Labs for 3 years, from 1998 to 2001, and I still consider it one of the highlights of my career. Built into most of the player models is a light synthesizer created by Jeff Minter of LlamaSoft, called the Virtual Light Machine, or VLM. The VLM allows you to play any audio CD you wish, and will synchronize psychedelic graphics with the music. The later Samsung models also allow user interactivity via the game controller. The number of available VLM effects varies depending on the unit, with the Samsung units maxing out at over 100, while the Toshiba model only supports a paltry 8, mostly due to health worries about flashing lights. There's good variety there and bound to be something that you'll enjoy. Some effects work better than others when following the music. Tunes with lots of bass and a defined beat are best. LlamaSoft also later created the light synthesizer for the Xbox 360. VM Labs tried to side on movie studios to put NUON exclusive features on their discs. 4 movies eventually took advantage of this: Bedazzled, The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai, Dr. Dolittle 2, and Planet of the Apes. The marketing names for these new features were Biddies, Gamma Zooms, Hyperslides, and Commentary Digests. The idea was to take the content that's already on the disc and present it in a different way.
I don't know what you've been told, little lady.
Biddies pick out snippets of the film as a mini featurette. An example includes the Elizabeth Hurley fashion show from Bedazzled, where the Biddy shows samples of the costumes worn by the actress throughout the movie. Gamma Zooms use NUON's zooming feature to pause the movie at various points and highlight interesting things you may have missed.
No, that's not fair.
Hyperslides take the Gamma Zoom's idea further and show the movie in motion alongside additional info like production notes. Commentary Digests condense the movie's commentary track down into a more bite-sized chunk. It includes only the most interesting bits, saving you from having to watch the entire movie over again. Another feature that never saw the light of day that personally I would have liked to see come to fruition is called Director's Script. The idea was to take the commentary track and enhance it further by allowing the commentator to manipulate the movie by either pausing it, fast forward, or play it in slow motion, all while continuing to talk in real time. They could also draw on the movie using a virtual chalkboard, similar to what you see in sporting telecasts. Many gamers hated the idea of VM Labs licensing the technology out to multiple manufacturers due to its apparent similarity to other failed systems such as the Philips CDI and the 3DO. But I felt that it really had a good chance to do well, given the right marketing and software to back it up. Unfortunately, the system didn't last long enough in order to deliver on those promises. All told, VM Labs released 8 games for the system, the most well-known being Jeff Minter's Tempest 3000, a trippier follow-on to Jaguar's Tempest 2000. It might not be for everyone, Arscast, I'm looking at you, but if you like abstract shooters, it can definitely put you in the zone. There's Ballistic, a match 3 game that was packed in with Samsung players in the US and Europe. It has your normal panic mode where you play for as long as possible. Then there's the stage mode with preset levels. Finally, there is a 2-player versus mode, which is nicely done. The game recently got a revival as Magnetica on the Nintendo DS. Other clones exist as well, such as the Flash-based Puzzle. The Toshiba SD2300 player came with the voucher for the game The Next Tetris, which, despite its rather Spartan graphics, is still a load of fun, mostly because, well, it's Tetris. In fact, while preparing for this recording, I found myself replaying Tetris much more than any of the other games. This is a difficult game to find now, mostly because it was only available with the voucher, which I'm sure many people did not redeem.
3.
There's the cute but fun karting game Merlin Racing. It mostly tries to mimic Diddy Kong Racing from the Nintendo 64, especially with the adventure mode. It doesn't have the same polish as Rare's game, but is fun regardless. It is very unforgiving, with the later levels requiring near-perfect driving to win. The game eventually made its way to the PS1 after being split into 3 budget titles called Rascal Racers, Space Race, and Airboat Racing. The retro remake, Space Invaders XL, is good nostalgia. They dressed it up with a choice of 4 backgrounds and enhanced graphics, but it's still the same old game. There are 2 saving graces to this title. The head-to-head versus mode is lovely in its frantic nature. Each player gets a mini-wave, with special colored invaders providing different effects when shot. You can play this against a human or computer opponent. Finally, Time Attack has you battling a fixed configuration of waves to complete in the fastest time possible. It has some great remix tunes from past Taito games. The oddest NUON game is probably the futuristic skydiving cop game, Freefall 3050 AD. This is definitely a gamer's game, featuring a control learning curve that will have you tearing your hair out. But the gameplay is very unique, as you battle multiple enemies all around you while skydiving through clouds and buildings. It definitely takes some getting used to. By far the most desirable NUON title due to its rarity is Iron Soldier 3. This mech game was offered for sale only briefly before being pulled from the market due to a bug. Sometime later, the pulled discs were given away for free to members of the NUON community as a thank you for the support. They were marked with not for resale, not that it ever stopped them from showing up on eBay. The controls alone put this one firmly in the hardcore gaming camp. It has some great presentation with full motion video integrated in many parts of the menu system. Iron Soldier 3 also found its way onto PS1. There is also a game only released in Korea called Crayon Shin-Chan. I've never seen it in action, but you can view a clip of it by going to nuondome.com. In addition to the 8 published titles, there was also a finished game of the bubble matching game Bust a Move that never saw the light of day. As you can see, the titles were generally in the PS1 to Nintendo 64 range for quality. Given that those 2 systems were on their end of their lives at the time that NUON came out, this didn't bode well for comparisons with the next consoles, PS2, GameCube, and Dreamcast. Still, I think the NUON games would have found their niche, because they were generally priced a little bit lower, $20 to $30, comparable to video releases. Also, the NUON library would have skewed a bit more casual to try to draw in more non-gamers. So what happened? Why did NUON fail? Personally, I believe it was just a matter of VM Labs running out of money before the concept could get traction and take off. I'm sure there were more fundamental business reasons, but it didn't help that the tech bubble burst right around the time that we were trying to get our next round of funding. Employees endured a period of reduced and even no salary as management scrambled to keep the company afloat. Those of us that could make do worked for free out of our belief in the company and the technology. Unfortunately, real life and bills caught up with me at the end of 2001, and I was dismayed to have to leave. Sadly, significant funding never came through, and VM Labs entered bankruptcy, only to have its IP and assets bought by Genesis Microchip. One of the best things to come out of VM Labs before its descent into bankruptcy was the Public Software Development Kit. Using it, independent authors could create applications that would run on homebrew-capable machines, which sadly only included the later Samsung models. It is because of this public SDK that NUON is alive today. Homebrew games such as Breakout and Snake and applications like ambient monsters and video game music player were created by independent authors in their spare time. So what's in store for NUON? Well, I plan to continue development on the platform. I was in the middle of porting a couple of PS1 games before I moved houses and got sidetracked, so I plan to dive back into those later this year. They will join the ranks of my earlier ports of Philippe Lauren's difficult-to-pronounce IMS, Ben James's Caterpillar, Chris Wallace's Breakdown, and my own Decaying Orbit. I am not aware of anyone else still working on NUON applications or games, but who knows what might happen in the future. Okay, that's it. At this point, I want to direct you to nuondome.com, the award-winning NUON fan site that's dedicated to the NUON community. It's not my site. Kevin does a great job maintaining it. It has a ton of info there. Also, you can send questions to me. Send them to ska_t@dragonshadow.com. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Hi there, everyone. Scott T here again. And this time I'm going to be taking you through the game that I made called Decaying Orbit. And I'll be playing the game and giving you some commentary and various tidbits that went into the game. Obviously, one of the major things that was changed in the NUON version was that the resolution was dropped from 640 by 480 down to 320 by 240. The frame rate dropped from 60 frames per second down to 30. And obviously both of these contribute to a more choppy game, which is not what I'd like. This level also introduced a scrolling screen to the player. I wanted to put the target planet within sight, but still just out of reach that the player would have to see that the playfield scrolls when they move past. So if you collide with an enemy while his shield is down, he will explode, regardless of how many hit points he has left, which is a nice way of getting rid of the more difficult enemies. So one of the reasons I have a time limit on each level is so you can't just sit here and recharge your shield every time you get hit. Uh-oh. I really like this boss. It worked out really well.